Perfect. So welcome everybody. My name is Jan Lehman. I'm the owner of CTC Productivity. And with me today is one of my fabulous team members, Walter Jankowski. Walter is a process improvement guru on our team. So we're super excited to have you. For those of you that are new to our webinar series, let me kind of explain what we're doing. We've been doing webinars for the last 6 months or so. And the whole focus was really how to help everybody work more effectively in a remote world, and in particular by leveraging Microsoft 365. So if you're coming in and this is your first one, you may want to go back and actually look at, Walter, if you'll enter into chat, you can go back to our website and we have all the recordings for all the past webinars out there. And it starts with like a high level overview of 365, and then we start doing a deeper dive. So feel free to go out there and watch past recordings. Today we're actually, last month, Walter did an introduction to Teams and SharePoint. And today he's going to be doing a little bit deeper dive into the SharePoint and Teams integration. So we're super excited for that. Just so you know how this works, typically when we do training, we would always be super interactive and engaging, but the way we run the webinars is we do a pretty condensed amount of information that we're sharing with you, and then we flip it over and open it up for Q&A. So as we're going along, if you have questions that pop up, please enter them into chat, and when we get to the Q&A part, we will answer that. If you find you're furiously writing a lot of notes, don't panic. You can go back and watch this recording later as many times as you want. So today, just let it all sink in and get a grasp. We're really just trying to raise your awareness of the power of the technology that you have. So, so next month, we're going to do, yeah, let's go ahead, Walter, you go to the next one. So next month, we're going to switch gears going into the new year. And we're actually going to shift our focus over more to the leaders within an organization and touch on some topics that can help leaders be more effective in their role. So in January, we're going to talk about, again, kind of advanced team and SharePoint techniques for managing and leading a remote workforce. And you can go ahead and, Walter, if you don't mind, if you can put the registration link out in the chat. You can go ahead and register for that particular one today. That one's ready, ready to go. And then in February, then we're going to be doing one. We don't quite have the registration up on this one, but in February, we're going to be talking about how to run effective meetings online. And at any point, if you want to listen to recordings or register for new webinars, just go out to our website, to the events page, and that's where you can find everything and register. So perfect. So I'm just going to do a couple slides, and then I'll pass it over to Walter. So there is so much waste. So CTC Productivity is all about eliminating waste in organizations. And I love this statistic from the Wall Street Journal that talks about how most people are wasting about half their workday because they weren't taught organizing skills to deal with the demands of today's environment. And so this is talking about organizing your time, organizing your digital data, organizing your workflow, everything that we do as productivity consultants. And we have gotten whole companies to a 30% improvement rate on increased revenue from looking at all these productivity strategies. So we are super excited you're here to learn some ideas. The next slide is just kind of a continuation of that. You know, we find we're doing trainings still today on how to manage email effectively, and email's been around for like 25 plus years. So you can imagine that we're barely scratching the surface of leveraging the power of Microsoft 365. So again, super happy you're here to start to raise some awareness about what's possible in your new world. On that note, I'll pass it over to Walter to do a little deep dive.
All right, good afternoon. Walter Jankowski here, reinvention consultant, work with CTC Productivity. And here's our agenda. Jan just kicked off a little background. I am going to ask you just a bit, what's your comfort level, 0 to 5 with Teams and SharePoint? You're going to put it in the chat, but I'm going to go through just a Teams and SharePoint 101 and basic overview of functionality, look and feel. I'm just going to touch on that. I'm going to mostly assume that you have exposure to Teams and SharePoint in this, all right? Today, we're going to talk about using lists and workflow to manage work. I'm going to show you some ways to document processes, and then I'll give you Walter Jankowski's top 10 tips for implementing Teams and SharePoint in your organization and how to deploy it throughout your organization. And we'll wrap it up. Okay, here we go. I am going to warn you, this is going to be like drinking from a fire hose. I'm going to, like Jan had said, this is really awareness sessions. We're not awareness and understanding. We want you to be able to know the capabilities and be aware of them, but this is not a teach you how to do this session, right? So it's going to be like drinking from a fire hose, right? So if you have Microsoft 365, and especially the online version, you have access to all of these apps. Microsoft has, in the last couple of years, has pulled all of these apps together. Everybody knows Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook. Everyone knows that. But now there's a whole bunch of other apps that are all in the Microsoft 365 package. And today we're going to talk about these two, SharePoint and Teams, and then how they work together and the capabilities that those two have, and they interact with all of these other apps. Okay. So if you would, and Nancy, if you would just type in the chat 0 to 5, your comfort level or knowledge of Teams and SharePoint. 0 is I don't even know what you're talking about, and 5 is I could teach a class in this.
Do you guys think that I should put 2 in there for me? Walter and Nancy are my tech gurus. I know enough to be dangerous. So
Jan, you awesome. Are at least a 3. So.
At least a 3. So thank you. There's a lot of people entering. That's awesome. Got some 2s, 3s, SharePoint at 1 level. Yep, we got a good array here.
Okay.
Some people answered that early on and said 2s to 3s, but I'm not sure if they were thinking a 10-point scale. So
yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so I'm going to start with kind of Teams and SharePoint 101 for those that are on the lower end of the scale, let's say. So if you have Teams in your organization, this is what a typical Teams site would look like. You are invited to your Teams, and you would see over here on the left nav, you'd see the apps that you have access to. So things like chat and Teams and calls and calendars. And if you have access to those, if whoever owns the Teams site gives you access to the apps, this is what you would see. So so on the left nav are the teams you have access to, and then you'll also see the teams and channels you belong to. So like in this case, I'm part of the strategic planning team. There's always, there's always a general, a general channel, and then you can create channels underneath that. And if you see a little lock, that means that only let's say there are 10 people that have access to this strategic planning team. The KPI metrics team might be a subset of that, and that lock means that it's not everybody in the team has access to it. All right, so those are the teams and channels you belong to. If you do not belong to a team, you will not see this, or a channel or a team, you will not see it. Okay. So up at the top, you have, a general, and then you have posts and files, and then you can put anything you want along the top quick link bar. And what's really cool about Teams is this is where Microsoft had SharePoint for many years. Many years I've been working in SharePoint, and they realized that people were not using SharePoint. It wasn't as powerful as a tool as it could be. So they built this front end of Teams for more of the team interactive collaboration communication. And so behind, when you create a Teams site, this is what it looks like. It looks something like this, where welcome to the team, and you have your posts and files, etc. But behind that site, it also creates a SharePoint site. So, and that is when you post files, etc. That SharePoint site is behind and behind the team site. Okay, so if you post something in, so like I like to have a good practice of like key documents. I will post it in the team site, and you can see here's the Appleton Fire Department strategic plan, and you can see these documents. Remember these documents. If I click on those files posted in the whole group, if you files shared or uploaded in the Teams, go to the SharePoint. If you click on the Files tab, you will see in the general folder, you will actually see in the SharePoint site those files. So SharePoint is actually the home of any files that you post, and it's behind the scenes, and it's all dynamic. I can, if any one of us go into a document, we can all be in the document at the same time, and we can all edit, and it will save it back to SharePoint. And so Teams is really just the delivery mechanism of that document. Okay. So this is what a typical SharePoint site looks like. And you can see there's not much on here. You know, these are all, this is the default. It has the news and the quick links and the activity and the documents. You can see nobody's really touched this. Well, with this SharePoint site behind the scenes, you can actually edit that, and it can look something like that. This is what this fire department Teams look like. Well, this is now what it looks like, and you can have announcements and quick links to various sites. So think of your Teams site is where your team actually works, communicates daily work. The SharePoint site behind it, you can build it out to be kind of your depository of notifications and news, etc. And there's lots of things that you can do with the SharePoint site behind it. Okay, I just want to give an introduction now. If you're in the SharePoint site, now I'm going to get to, in SharePoint and Teams, you can create lists and workflows, and I'm going to show you how to use lists and workflows to manage work. How many of you, if you would, raise your hand if you track work, I'll call them work order requests. So track items that you have to do, like your team. How many of you like track things in a spreadsheet or have some kind of tracking system of here's the work that we have to do and accomplish? Raise your hand if you have a something like that. Anybody? That's Nancy and Jan. What do you see?
It looks like we have two people. One raised their hand. Another person typed in the chat. Another person typed in the chat. So we have three. To find raise your hand, that could be why we're not getting a lot of hand raises.
Oh, yep.
If you're in the participant, if you look at the participant list, and if it's not showing, there's a little more button. And on the more button, that allows you to go ahead and raise your hand, I believe.
Awesome. So this in this section, I'm going to talk about how do you actually track activities. So I want you to think about like a call center or all work, every department has some kind of work order request. And what that means is, so if I'm the IT department,
we hosted parties practically every day.
Sorry. Every department has work order requests. And if you think about
for 3.5 weeks straight.
Sorry. If you, each department has work order request system. So like in this case, we built out an information technology, a public site. And if I click on request checkout equipment, that's a work order request, right? I'm asking IT, I want to check out a projection unit, or I want to check out a laptop or whatever. Work order requests. So IT then has to track all of this and keep and know who has it, when do they want it, when they need to return it. So if I click on that check order or work order request in SharePoint, you can build out a form, or in Power Apps, request checkout equipment. So you can see here, enter your name and what do you want and what date needed and date to be returned. This is a very simple process. I think Nancy has some trainings out there on work order or on forms. You can gather the requested data with either forms or Power Apps, and I'm going to cover Power Apps next month. But then that Power Automate, you can write a Power Automate that actually takes the data from the forms and puts it into a SharePoint list. And so you can see here, here's the equipment checkout, and here is the various people who are checking these out. Okay, let me show you how you do Power Automate. So in this list, in the workflow list, you can see here's the equipment checkout. If you go to Automate, Power Automate, you can create a flow. And once you hit that create a flow, you get a list of all of the templates that are out there. So like in this case, I want this form that somebody to go into a SharePoint list. So right here is the first one, is send a customized email when a new SharePoint list item is added. And so you can convert the form to a SharePoint list. You get approval to add to the list, or you can have any task. There's hundreds of flows that are automatically built out there. And here's what that looks like. If I click on here's one that is send a customized email when a new SharePoint list item is added. You click on the SharePoint item, it automatically notifies you that says a new item has been added. And then you can choose who that email goes to. So here's an example of a Power Automate. Behind the scenes, you can create conditions and approvals, auto emails. There's lots of opportunities. So you can see when a new item is created, start an approval, do it a condition. If it's yes, do this. If it's no, you do this. And so there's a whole ton of things that you can do. It's almost unlimited as to this is how you build out workflow through your organization. So let's say that you have a request, somebody requests a day off for vacation. It goes to the manager, and then they can approve it. And if it needs to go to a next level manager up, you can have it go to multiple people or have a chain of approvals in order to get that vacation approved. Okay. Power Automate is extremely powerful, and that's how you work with flows. And then at the end, so let's say I get the equipment request, it goes into a list. I get a notification that a new request has been added. Then I can do the work, and I can deliver the projection unit or the laptop or whatever. And then when I'm done, I change the list item to completed. And then there's a workflow that automatically sends an email that says this item has been completed. Thank you very much. And if you want, you can put a survey there that says, how was your service, etc. So there's all sorts of, you can do within a process, you can do all sorts of steps and approvals and workflows within one process. Okay, that is workflows, and we'll cover more next month. I'll get into more depth on work order requests and tickets and using Power Apps. And let's say you want those Power Apps to go onto a laptop or a iPad or a phone, you can do that also. Okay, let's get into process documentation. There's 4 ways. So if you're trying to get all of your claims staffed or all of your people in your department to do things consistently, one of the key ways to do that is have process documentation. And I'm going to show you 4 different ways that you can do this and build this out. These are all SharePoint examples. Here's one. This happens to be a recruitment team that they had 18 different recruiters all across the nation that were doing it 18 different ways. And a senior leader came into the organization and said, and they were getting a lot of feedback from managers saying, well, I get a different experience depending on which recruiter I get. And, you know, some of your recruiters are good, some of them not so good. And so the senior executive brought all of them in and said, I want one standardized way of how we do recruiting at this organization. And so we brought them all in. We said, okay, here, and we built out a recruiting desktop. And this is SharePoint. You can see up at the top, we have the process. The input is an approved job request. Then we receive the request, we post the position, we recruit, source, screen, interview, offer, hire, and the output is an onboard notification. And throughout this, we need to administer, track, and provide status to our customers. But then it has all of the items, everything that I need to do my job as a recruiter. It has all of the boards and everything. But here's where you get the process documentation. You click on that receive request, and it takes you to the next page, and it has the next layer of detail. It has the core process documentation, step-by-step, who performs it. So you can see here, review the verifying job requisition, send the hiring information to the hiring manager. And here is a link to an email template. When you click on it, it automatically pops up an email in Outlook. And then all they have to do is fill in and update the data. Here's the recruiting checklist for the various roles. Here's who's doing what. And it has links to various systems, internal and external, and processes and documents. This is the ideal for documenting processes as you get it online. And this is all built in SharePoint. This is all interactive pages and sites and depending on what you want to do. Okay, that's method one. Method two, which I love this way, if you've ever used OneNote, you can set up a OneNote that, like in this case, this is the IT end user documentation. So this IT department, they have hundreds of documents and ways, you know, and questions that they get. And so they broke it out, and you can see the various sections act as a table of contents. So here's the home and applications and iSeries and Teams and passwords and phones and etc. So each section, when I click on this is new PC setup. Well, here's how you set up your email. Here's how you set up your printer, default printer, etc. And you can see over on the right, they just put in, here's the actual way that you do it in screenshots, and you can put links to anything you want. OneNote is an extremely powerful tool to set this up. And all you have to do is give people access. This is the access that you put this OneNote in a spot that everyone has access to it, and set up links to it. And you can link to a specific page, or you can link to a given section, or to the whole document. And then when your help desk actually has a call and say, hey, how do I set up my email? I just go to this and I right mouse click on it, and it says copy link, and I email it to them and say, here's how you do this. Okay, very powerful method. Method two. Method three is you can set up a knowledge base with all, think of an organization-wide, all types of documentation, forms, processes, policies, you name it. You can put it into a master organization-wide knowledge base, and then you can add metadata. And what the metadata does is the master knowledge base has all the organization documents, and then the metadata have different views. Like in this case, we have the human resources, and we have the FMLA, of the Family Medical and Leave Act, and then we set this up where the policy is the first thing that they see, and that is a link to a OneNote that has all of the policies for this organization. And then here's all the forms that you need for that process. And so with this metadata, you can group it and sort it by policy, by topic, by owner, by whatever you like. And then you can also do searches on these. And so it's a very powerful way to document your processes, put them into the same standard and template and format, and then put them all into a knowledge base. Okay. And so like if I click on this calendar, FMLA calendar, it takes me to the PDF document that has this. Or I can have all of these fillable forms, or I can create a form in SharePoint. Okay. And method 4 is you can create sites and pages. So like, here's an example of this organization built out their benefits page. This is a link off of the HR page. And then you go to benefits and you can see they set up, here's our medical insurance, dental insurance, retirement, tuition reimbursement. And here was, we put it from the perspective of why would people go there? Why would they go to this site? What in terms of benefits? And if you look at this, here's the life change checklist that they've created. You want to change your address or your marital status or change dependents. You click on change dependents and it takes you to a page that has the whole process. And it has links to fill out this FMLA form, then do this. So you can link to external sites, internal sites. It's very similar to a OneNote, but it's set up in pages and you can document it any way that you like. So those are the 4 methods of process documentation. There's probably many more out there. These are my preferred for various organizations. Okay. All right. The last section is I'm going to give you Walter Jankowski's top 10 implementation tips. So you're thinking about going to Microsoft 365 and SharePoint and Teams, and you're thinking, kind of where do I start? Well, here is the top 10. And thank you, Nancy, for saying, who the heck is that guy? That's like a very old picture. All right. So tip number 10. First thing is create your Teams and SharePoint intranet core team. And I'm a big believer in, I'm typically, Jan and Nancy and I are consultants and we come in to your organization. So the first thing that we do is get people in your organization involved in this. And so you want to set up a team structure. So you have an executive sponsor, a business owner, a core team, the core team members, subject matter experts, support team, facilitator, and you have clear roles and responsibilities, but get this core team that are going to work on this, because this is a project. If you were going to roll out Teams and SharePoint in your organization, treat it as a project. Don't just hope it sticks, throw it against the wall and hope it sticks. Actually build it out. Okay. That's tip number 10. Tip number 9 is step back and create a master flow or hierarchy of your sites. So you'll typically want, all the organization to come to a homes page, and then you'll want like the various departments, and you want projects underneath there, and so think about how you want to structure your Teams and your SharePoint sites to make sense as it flows through the organization. And the key to when you do this from a high level is the question you want to ask is, who needs access to this site or to this team? That's always the question you ask, because that is how you control, that is how you decide whether you create a new site or a channel or you want to know who needs access. If everyone in the organization needs access, you're going to set it up differently than if just my department needs access. And then you just build out that hierarchy. Okay. Tip number 8. Develop your Teams and SharePoint brand. So I'm a huge believer in, make it sure that you have the same look and feel and have standards. So look at colors, logos, top navigation bar, layout, If you don't do that, and then actually name your site, and like in this case, the city of Appleton called it Core Connect, and they developed the logo for it. If you don't do this, and I've seen organizations that they just kind of let Teams and SharePoint go, what it looks like is you have 10 different organizations within one organization. You lose that whole look and feel, and then people get lost. So you want it to look like one organization. And then you guide users to adhere to the standards. The core team says, hey, no, don't have the dancing, chicken on your site, please, etc. Tip number 7 is research. Have the core team research sites you like. There's a ton. If you go and type in SharePoint sites, example SharePoint sites in Google, you will see hundreds, if not thousands, of sites. And go have the team research examples of what you like: colors, layouts, web parts. Ooh, I like this. Ooh, I like the clock. Ooh, I like how this is set up. I like the graphics of this, etc. Don't worry about the content. Just what do you want it to look like? And then ask. And then typically what I'll do is I'll have blank PowerPoint slides, and I'll ask each team member go into the PowerPoint and drop in your example site, and then write out why you like this. What do you like about it? Okay. Tip number 6 is select and train your site admins. So you'll have the core team, but then you'll want the next layer out of various pilot groups and get those site admins. And then what I like to do is set up a sandbox site. So on their site, you create a sandbox, and then you give everybody, the site admins and the core team, owner access to this, and let them play around in it. And then you teach how to build out sites, and you let them use all the web parts, and they go in here and they create a page, and they can do anything they want to the sandbox site. And then they can play around with it and test stuff out. And then we also have a master training list, and we teach lists by having them create this master training list, and then each person has their own list, and they say whether did they learn how to do this or not. And so it's we have the master, they create their own, they copy the data in, and lo and behold, they're keeping track of their learning. Okay. Tip number 5, then start building out your home site. Well, once you have that higher level, you can have, think about what is your top navigation bar. What do you want all sites to have? And it's called a hub site. And that the home site is the hub site, and then that top navigation bar will show up on every site beyond that. But it's a one-stop shop for all of the organization. It has news, announcements, alerts. So there's the all communications. Here's quick links. These are things that when you want all employees to have quick access to, whether it be time cards or or time tracking systems, or websites that you want them to go out to, work order requests, etc. And then you have news. Here's what's going on out throughout the organization. So you have you have your home site, and now you start building out a couple of prototype department sites. And I like to get a mix of different types of organizations, like HR, and then, like in this case, the police department and the fire department, and they're going to have different needs and requirements. And so, but you build out an all department information. So it's a staff desktop, but it's also a resource to other departments that they can go in and see what the contacts are and who are the key players and any work order requests. And then your internal customers, you provide the purpose of the department, your work order request tracking system, common links, FAQs, etc. So the entire organization can see, oh, this is your department and what I can request from that department. Here's an example of IT. You saw that before. All right, tip number 3 is make sure they own it and use it. So once you have those pilots up and running and you've converted everything over, you make sure that you have owners and champions in each department, and you've involved them early. I like to have two different roles. You have site owners, which is typically the head of the department, and then site admins, which they're typically the ones who are updating content and managing the site. But you train them and then let them run. And then once you have it up and running, it's the only place they can find latest versions of documents. You take stuff off of the shared drive as much as possible, or you link to the shared drive. And then it's a one-stop shop desktop. And then you require people do not, and this is the main power of SharePoint and Teams, is don't ever email a file unless it's going to outside your organization. You send links, and then once you send links, everybody's working in the same document. You only have one master. Okay. Tip number 2, once you have that, you update and clean your room. You have the page owners, just remove old files, put files in the archive, make default views and to exclude it, and then just maintain your page. Always have news, events, and content as you go. And the last tip is just start. You really can't mess this up. You can't screw up your SharePoints or Teams sites, and you try to get some successes. So
Nice job.
that is it.
Awesome. All right, couple comments. I'm sure you're glazing over with information. Just a reminder, it's a free webinar. Our intention is to raise your awareness of what's possible. We did not expect you guys to grasp all of it. Also want to share, obviously, our expertise. So keep that in mind. Feel free to go back at the recording and listen to it over and over again. It'll be out there in a couple days. So Walter, that was excellent. Thank you. And I just want to comment too and say, and I'm super happy, Walter, that you really touched on the piece that it's not that simple. That's one of the issues we're seeing with a lot of companies we're working with is the technology, that it's easy to make changes in the technology, and people are assuming that all of this is super easy. So it is important to approach it, like Walter said, as a project. Often outside expert help is important to make sure you're not going down wrong rabbit holes, all that kind of stuff. But again, we're excited you get an opportunity to see what's possible. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up, and then we're going to go into Q&A. So just a reminder again, and Walter, if you'd enter into the chat again, that would be fabulous. Just a reminder, the January session is actually going to be talking about remote. January session is going to be talking about specifically targeting managers, leaders, and how to lead remote workforces. That's the registration is not yet on the website, but Walter's going to enter it into the chat. So yeah, so go ahead and Nancy, or Walter, if you'd enter that in the chat, that'd be great. The registration link. And then in February, we don't have the registration for this yet, but the plan is we're going to talk about running effective meetings. So that's the goal. And then I have a couple more slides, and then I'll open it up for Q&A. So when we've been doing these sessions, a lot of people will think, oh gosh, all they do is Microsoft 365. So just want to make sure you get what the CTC productivity brand is all about. Yes, we do a lot of consulting type work on how to optimize the use of 365, definitely do a lot of process improvement work. And we do get involved in helping companies track metrics, in particular as it relates to wasted time, which is a thing we're so passionate about. We also, though, we do coaching, whether it be one-on-one coaching, group coaching, company-wide training, a lot of public speaking on a variety of topics, anything related to personal productivity, like time management, email management, anything with the 365 suite of tools. And then we also do a lot related to leadership training and coaching. So teaching leaders how to be more effective in their role, with teaching them how to effectively delegate, run better meetings, be better project managers, etc. So that's a little bit about what CTC is about. So at this point, we'll open it up. And I will say, Melissa, I see that you're on there. Melissa had submitted a question to us earlier, which is fabulous. Unfortunately, Melissa, we don't have an answer for you. It's above our pay grade. So we go so deep into the technology, and the question that you had is really pretty hardcore. So our recommendation would be that you go back to your internal IT shop to ask them, or if you don't have an internal IT shop, you should have a managed service provider, but they would be the right person to direct that question to. So sorry, sometimes, yeah, the questions are a little bit more into the security infrastructure stuff, which we don't deal with. So, but go ahead, who's got a question? You can unmute yourself, ask, or you can enter it into chat, whatever works best.
Hi, this is Pat.
Perfect.
Hey, Pat.
Okay. So I'm in the finance department. I'm in charge of IT for our company. And we are trying to figure out a way to take all of our accounting processes, more our accounting procedures, and get them put in one spot. And it's like pulling teeth to get people to write them, first of all. But now we're starting, well, we're going to put some on our Teams site. Now we're going to put some in our, our server site. Would this kind of site that you were just talking about, would OneNote, do you think, work better, or SharePoint? It's a small group of people that actually would be generally accessing it.
I would, because if they've already started and they already have documents, so let's say they have one person put together a Word document, another person put together this, and I would say start with OneNote, because you can combine all of those. You can just have a link to a Word document, or you can have a link to a shared drive, or you can have, and then OneNote just puts it all in one spot, and it just makes it easier to kind of put it all in sections. And then those that haven't been, if they think about all the things that they should document, they could just say, put a page in or put a section in, and they could just say under construction or to be developed, or whatever that looks like. So yes, I would start with OneNote. Nancy, do you have any recommendations?
Yeah, I think that can be a great idea. And with that, if it doesn't have to be a Word document, you can actually just copy the Word document, paste it on a OneNote page, and then delete that Word document. So if it doesn't have to be a Word document or a PDF, also when you're sending them over to OneNote, you can embed that Word document or PDF into OneNote and get rid of it in the original location. You can also print out that file. So here's the embedded document and here's what it looks like. Okay, yep, that's the form you want. Go ahead, click on it, and you can fill it out from there. So there's several ways. OneNote is fantastic if right now it's kind of a jumble every place.
So Patricia, you were the one that wrote in this, sounds like a good way. Yeah, I would start with this, I'm trying to get this up. I would start with the OneNote, and you could, once you get to the OneNote, you could create then like the finance person's desktop, and have, that has all of the links that people need to do their jobs. But starting with the OneNote, if they can do this, that is at a minimum a good place to start, because it forces them to think about a book, like what are the chapters and what are the pages within the book. So, okay, what else?
Well, I have another one. What if you have, we have an organizational finance manual, which is all about expense reports and travel policies, those kinds of things, as well as an employee handbook manual. What would you think would be the best way to, right now it's a big long Word document that's a PDF, and you have to go through to try and find the section you want. What would make sense there? Would OneNote make sense? Would a SharePoint site where you can say, click here to find out about travel expenses? Or
And Nancy, you can add to this. In this case, this client had the same thing. They had all of their policies in a master PDF that was 784 pages. And people would have to go look for the policy. And we did is with PDFs, you can actually put in sections and then you grab that link. So you can go in and say, go to the page that is FMLA. So let's say FMLA is on page 127. You can put I forget what it's called, if it's a tab or you can put basically a bookmark right in that PDF, grab the link to that bookmark, and then you put it into, then you put it wherever you want. You could put it into Word documents, you could put it into OneNotes, and in this case, we put it right into the SharePoint site and just put a link. And that's the first thing that we want people to read is go read the policy first, and then here's all the other stuff behind it.
Walter, there's a question in the chat from Lori on how would you create an onboarding and offboarding process for employees? I work in the IT department and we do not have an easy process.
Oh, I love that. That onboarding processes are, it's, so before somebody gets there, there's a whole, it's like, the culmination of 8 different departments, HR, IT, the manager, the hiring manager, the facilities, they all have to be aware and, granting access and all this stuff has to happen. So there's a couple of ways that you can do it. One is you create a list, an onboarding list like this. And actually, here, let me go up to, this is kind of the simple way to do it, the simplest way to do it. Let me see where my list of, hang on a second. Here it is. See how we have the master training list? So this is like, number 1, I want you to, take this class, then do this. You can create an onboarding list, a master onboarding list that has all the tasks and activities, and you can say, here's what's going to happen week 1. You got to meet with your manager, you got to set up this, you got to get access to this, and you can actually have before the employee starts, here's all the tasks and activities and action items that have to happen, and then who's it assigned to. And then you can set up when an employee gets here, here's the things that happens in the first week, the first month, the first 6 months, and then they manage their list, their learning list or their onboarding list. And all you have to do is when you create that master list, and then when you have a new employee start, you copy the list, and then you just say, this is Karen's onboarding, and Karen has to go through all the tasks and activities, and those items are already set up as, you can either set them up as tasks or activities, or you can set them up as lists in your SharePoint site. So it would look something like this, where you'd have, task 1, get access to the facilities, get your picture taken and so when they walk in, they have all of these things assigned to them. And then, you can put anything in you want in that list, and you can put in links and, say, I want you to go take the company mission, vision, values video and watch that, and then do this, etc. That's an easy way to create kind of one master standard onboarding.
Perfect. So on that note, we're going to go ahead and wrap up. We're a couple minutes over kind of the end time.
I'm sorry.
No, that was great. So thanks for asking the questions. Again, keep checking back to the ctcproductivity.com website for recordings and registrations. And thanks for being on the call. We appreciate it.
This is awesome. Thank you, guys.
Good to see you, Gail.
Thank you.
Nice to see everyone.
Yeah.
Good job, Walter. Thanks for your help, Nancy.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Happy holidays.
Same
Oh,
to you.
yeah.
Happy holidays.